What if I told you America's most feared monster wasn't born in Hollywood, but in the depths of New Jersey's Pine Barrens? For nearly 300 years, the Jersey Devil has haunted this mysterious wilderness. A creature with a horse's head, bat wings, hooves, and a piercing scream that freezes blood. Born from a mother's curse in 1735 when she damned her 13th child, this winged demon has terrorized generations. Despite attempts to explain it as hysteria, misidentified wildlife, or colonial political slander against the Leeds family, the devil persists in American folklore. From military heroes firing cannons at it to mass panic in 1909 when hundreds reported sightings, this uniquely American monster continues to stalk the pine forests, a shadow that refuses to fade with time. The 13th child comes screaming into the world on a night that should have been ordinary. A midwife bends low, muttering prayers, but the mother does not pray. She spits her curse instead. Let this one be the devil. Air grows tight. Fire gutters low. In the rafters, something stirs as if it has been waiting centuries for those words. The child is warm and wet, small in the midwife's hands, human, for the space of a single breath. Then skin begins to shift. Nails turn black. A back splits open. Wings push through like knives tearing cloth. Soon the room fills with shrieking, not of infant lungs, but of some deeper throat, something older than language. The newborn lashes its tail across the bedstead, snapping wood, scattering blood. Candlelight rakes the walls, twisting every shadow into a monster. The father stumbles back. Children wake, screaming. The midwife drops her rag and crosses herself, though she knows no cross will hold here. Goat's eyes burn as the creature turns its head. It rises, beating the air with raw wings, and blasts up the chimney in a storm of ash and sparks. And the pines take it. They say the barrens have never been silent since. The house stands quiet afterward, but only on the surface. Ash coats the hearth and a print. Cloven, sharp, impossible, scars the floorboards. Mother Leeds lies back against her pillow, not triumphant, not broken, empty. She has given her curse a body, and the body has left her. Some say she laughed then, a sound like bark peeling from rotten wood. Some say she wept, begging the midwife to tell no soul. Others whisper she turned her head toward the black window and whispered, "He is home now." But the Barrens remember. The Barrens keep every word. When neighbors pass the house, they hear the story already taking shape. A 13th child, a curse spoken at birth, a creature clawing its way into the sky. Word runs like fire through the pines, licking from homestead to homestead. A woman bears the devil, and the devil roams the woods. At first, only whispers, then screams. A farmer, crossing a sandy road at dawn, finds his hogs torn open, as if gutted by hooks. He swears he sees prints in the sand, cloven but too deep, too far apart to belong to any goat or cow. The tracks wander into the trees, then vanish as if swallowed. At night, a miller walking home from Leeds Point hears wings above him, heavy and leathery, not feathered. He breaks into a run, but the sound follows, circling, diving low, a rush of air that makes his lantern gutter. When he dares to look up, he sees only the black outline of something too long in the neck, too crooked in the legs, too wide in the wings to belong to this earth. Children in Burlington cry that a shape looked in at their windows, horned, eyes burning, teeth flashing. Mothers hush them, but the mothers glance at their shutters and fasten them tight. The curse has taken root. Clergymen arrive. They ride from town to town, clutching holy books like shields, telling the people that no devil can survive the name of God. They preach exorcism over the pines, stand in clearing and chapel alike, raising their voices above the whispering trees. But the Barrens laugh at them. Winds roar through the branches, drowning sermons. Bells toll without hands to pull them. A dark shape flits between trees at the edge of every gathering, never close enough to strike, never distant enough to ignore. And when the men of God raise their hands in blessing, the air itself cracks with the answering cry of the devil, shrill, unearthly, long as a trumpet call through the night. Still the people cling to hope. Still they whisper that prayer might cage the beast. But each time, a new scream splits the pines. Each time another body is found broken, another farm struck, another flock scattered. The truth settles deeper. The devil belongs to the Barrens now. Historians will quarrel over the details. They will shift the year. 1735 or 1855 in Esterville. They will change the name, Mother Leeds, Mrs. Shords, some other unlucky woman. They will argue whether it was a curse of rage or of despair. But the people who live in the shadow of the pines do not need dates or documents. They have the sound of wings in the dark. They have the stories carried from porch to porch, from tavern to tavern, from father to son. In their minds, there is no doubt. Something waits out there, shaped from human blood and unearthly fire, its wings forever marked by a mother's curse. The Barrens themselves rise to meet the legend. The land is a labyrinth of pitch pine and cedar swamp, riddled with sand roads that go nowhere. The soil is thin, the water sour, the trees packed so tight that no light filters through by day. At night, the woods close in altogether, black and airless, and a man can lose himself a stone's throw from his own door. This is not land for saints. It breeds its own. Bandits hide here, loyalist robbers prayed here, fugitives and poachers and the unwanted generations, called Pineys carved lives, here in defiance of the world, outcasts among outcasts. If the devil were to walk the earth, this is where he would choose to make his lair. The first act of the story is always the same. A mother curses her child. A child takes on wings and claws. A cry bursts from the chimney, and the Barrens welcome their own. But stories never stay still. Each telling grows another tooth, another claw, another horror. Some swear the devil still flies over Moss Mill Road, his shadow stretched long against the moon. Others claim he slaps the sides of barns at night, his hooves echoing like gunshots. Old men say they saw him bleeding once, shot through with lead, and still he flew, laughing. And every telling ends the same way. The devil is out there. The pines have him, and they have never been silent since. By morning, the chimney is a black tooth against a bruised sky. Soot lies on the hearth like snowfall, fine and treacherous, and in it the midwife finds prints she cannot name, sharp, cleft, too long. She does not sweep them. She does not dare. She drops a coal over each mark as if snuffing an eye. "Close now," she whispers to the floor. "Close!" But the house remembers. The house keeps its wound. Word runs upriver, downriver, along sand tracks choked with scrub, and along the Mullica, where the water moves like a slow thought. Leeds Point wakes to the news like a congregation waking to thunder. Doors open, necks crane. In tavern and yard and bend of road, mouths shape the same name. The 13th, the devil, the woman at the edge of the pines. A boatman on the Mullica swears he saw something skimming low across the dawn, the surface rucking under its shadow as if the river hated it. A girl hauling water says she found her bucket scored with 3 deep grooves, as though lifted and set back down by a hand with claws. A boy coming from Moss Mill Road reports a stink of sulphur near the old cedar bridge, and the elders say they know that smell, they know what burns like that, and it does not belong to a Christian night. The father boards up the chimney. He nails a cross of driftwood above the door. He sharpens an axe until the edge shines and plants it by the bed. The children's dreams turn wild. They wake with bark under their nails and the taste of ash on their tongues. Mother Leeds looks at the trees through the window as though the trees are answering back. When the midwife returns with a bundle of herbs, the mother does not take them. "It is made," she says, voice like gravel. no leaf can unmake it. By week's end, the forest begins to answer in earnest. Something moves along the cedar swamps, bending the crowns as it passes. In the sandpits beyond the bog ironworks, men find tracks that start in nothing and end in nothing, each print deep as a heel driven by anger. A sheepfold is riven, a bleat cut off mid-cry. What's left looks like meat gone through by augers. The owner takes a lantern out to sea and finds the fence splashed high with a dark varnish that will not wash even with lye. He throws the boards on a fire and watches the flames burn green before they burn out. The clergy come again, this time in pairs and threes, their Bibles bound tight with rawhide thongs, as if the words might try to fly. They pace property lines and mutter Latin that has not been heard here since the first stump was cut down and the first cabin raised, and every syllable seems to go nowhere, to fall into sand that does not hold the shape of prayer. One bends to bless a doorstep and feels heat rise through the wood, as if a hearth blazed below where there is no hearth. Another loses his hat to a gust and sees it carried up, as if snatched, and then dropped shredded into the thicket. A third lifts his voice in a hymn, and something answers from the brush, not with a tune, but with a scrape, a hiss, a breath like bellows drawing in, and all three men begin to sing faster. At night, the trees grow a new language. It is not the creak of bough on bough, not the soft talk of needles. It is the flex and snap of something muscled. It is the dull thud of hooves that are not hooves, a hammering that comes in fours, then twos, then silence so loud that blood drums in your own ears feels like a stranger's pulse beating under the floor. The people learn to count that silence. They learn to know its length and what it means when it breaks. When the moon goes thin and mean, lights are seen moving through the low country, where no one has cause to walk at that hour. Some swear these are lanterns, carried by men hunting the creature. Others swear back they are not lanterns but eyes. The arguments grow teeth. Knuckles split. In the morning, the men who called it eyes find the bark peeled on a pine near their doors in long ribbons, fresh as if taken with a skinner's blade. In the tavern, the map of the Barrens changes. It is the same lattice of roads and creeks, the same bogs, and the same sour clearings. But now there are places you do not say aloud after sundown, knots of dark renamed by the fear that walks them. Leeds Point wears the rumour like a second weather. Esterville learns it. Burlington breathes it. The pines accept it into their root and water. One evening, a rank comes out of the west, the kind of smell that makes teeth ache. The midwife, who has begun lighting a candle each dusk and letting it burn out on its own, takes a basin to the door and flings the water into the dark. It hangs there, a brief silver net. Then something passes through it without getting wet. A shape strides across Moss Mill Road. Long in the forelegs, short in the back. Head like a goat risen taller than a man has any right to be. Wings hunched tight as if disliking the drag of air. It does not look left or right. It does not need to. The thing moves as if it belongs here in a way that nothing else has ever belonged. Its feet, those feet, set down and are set down again without leaving anything you can follow, as if the sand would rather keep the secret of where it went. That night, the dogs refuse to bark. They fold their ears and flatten their ribs to the floorboards and whine as though they can feel a step above them that the people cannot hear. An old mare in a back pasture rears and throws herself against the fence until the slats break like breadsticks under a long hand. Her owner, pitying the good animal, drives a nail into the post to hang the broken harness and finds, in the morning, the nail curled like a shaving, bent by no hand he knows. There is talk of leaving. There is talk of torches and traps. There is talk of men walking to the heart of the pines with the book and a bell and a rope. Between talk and deed, a space opens, the size of a single breath, then the size of a mile. The empty space fills with stories. It fills with the sound of something flicking its tail, just out of sight. And then the children begin to tell it. They say it visits the eaves like frost and looks in with a face that is not a face but a puzzle. A horse that has eaten a man, or a man dragged out of a horse still wearing the shape. They say its mouth is a second window opening and closing, opening and closing. They say, with the accuracy of children, that its teeth are too clean, as if polished by sand. They say, with the cruelty of children, that it knows your name the first time and does not have to be told. Mothers call them liars. Mothers keep them close. Mothers start counting their children at the end of each day and write the number on the sill in chalk that will not wash, no matter the weather. And each new number looks a little thinner than the last, as if the chalk itself has learned to ration breath. By now, the legend has taken a voice of its own. It speaks through the tired and through the drunk and through the devout. It speaks from the lips of men who have never set foot past the first dark tree. It speaks from the throat of the river. A low burr under the frogs and the night birds. A sentence a man thinks he understands and then realizes he does not. The sentence repeats, and in the repetition grows truer. Once, and this is sworn to, a priest in Burlington brings a bell from his church into the thick of the barrens and tolls it at midnight. The sound goes out like a bright rope uncoiling, and for a time, even the insects go quiet as if listening to the rope strike air. In the second before the bell's echo dies, another note rises, the devil's scream, wrong and right at once, a chord that seems to pass not around the trees, but through them. The bell cracks, the rope frays as if gnawed. The priest goes home and does not open his mouth for a week, because when he tries to speak, he tastes iron and smells smoke, and fears what might come out. In a house near the river, a widow takes in washing and sleeps in a chair by her hearth to keep the fire steady through the wind. She dreams of hooves crossing her roof and wakes to find ash settling around her like snow. She wipes it away and sees on the stone a mark. 3 slashes and a dot, again 3 slashes and a dot. Like a language she's never learned making itself at home. She covers it with her kettle. She moves the kettle. The mark is deeper. She drags the kettle to the yard and leaves it there to rust. It blooms orange in 2 days, as if time in the barrens has been asked to hurry. Far out where the sand roads thin to paths, a cedar shakes itself like a dog risen from water and showers down a spatter of dead moths. White, countless, soft as quiet apologies. Under the litter is a nest. Feathers, eelskin, rusted hinge, a Bible leaf with the words half gnawed into nonsense, a rosary with the cross bitten clean through. The nest is warm. The nest has a smell that makes eyes blur. A man reaches toward it without meaning to, feels a slickness that is not sap, and jerks back his hand as if from a stove. He does not tell what he felt. He cannot tell. He keeps his hand in a pocket for days and looks at nothing, for fear he will see that the skin on his palm has learned to breathe. By the end of the season, the devil has become the measure of the barrens. Men talk about distance in screams. They measure weather in wings. A heavy wing night, a light wing night, a night with a drag to the air as if something too big to fly had decided to fly anyway. They measure courage in how close a man will walk to the black seam where the trees knit tight and the sand is marked with half moons that mean nothing and everything. As for the woman who spoke the curse, she walks the yard at dusk and watches swallows cut the sky into fast slivers and counts them until the dark takes the last one. She does not wear grief like a shawl. She wears it like a second skin, quiet and complete. Sometimes she stands as if listening to a lullaby sung from a distance and half remembered. Once, the midwife sees her tilt her head and smile, not happily, not sadly, but in recognition, the way a mother smiles when she hears her child's tread in the hall. "What do you hear?" the midwife asks, unable not to ask. "Practice," the mother says. And the word chills the midwife worse than the wind off the mullica ever did. The chimney stays boarded. The door's driftwood cross grays and cracks, and a storm takes it clean off its nail. No one replaces it. The house leans a little more each season, and the road in front of it leans too, as if drawn that way by something that knows how to bend wood and sand and will. Years later, when men with cameras come to stare and to pose in the doorway, and to insist that nothing ever truly happened here, the lens will catch a shadow on the thresh, and no one will remember who stood where to cast it. The photograph will develop a stain like breath that will not evaporate. But for now, the story is not old. It is not codified. It is raw and walking and learning how to turn its head. It is feeding. It is naming the places it prefers. It is testing doors. It is washing its claws in the river at night, slow and patient, as if the mullica were its own long tongue. In the Barrens, names hold. This one holds harder than most. It fits the mouth too well. It flies. And the pines, stung and satisfied, keep the echo pressed between their teeth. Long before a chimney belched sparks into the Barrens, the name Leeds was already touched by smoke. Daniel Leeds had seen to that. In 1687, he took up his pen and filled an almanac with strange signs, stars, and the language of heaven. His fellow Quakers opened the pages and found not light, but shadows, astrology, mysticism, words that smelled of incense and brimstone. They declared the work unclean, seized copies, and fed them to fire. Ash drifted through Burlington, like a warning, but Daniel only sharpened his quill. With each new edition he pushed further. Angels tangled with demons, scripture with sorcery, and the elders muttered that his pages carried more than ink. He wrote as if daring God to strike the parchment, as if daring the devil to answer. When the meeting cast him out, they sealed his name with judgment. In tracts and sermons, his reputation hardened. Daniel Leeds was a servant of darkness, a man in league with forces no Quaker tongue would name. Exile only deepened the stain. He turned from Quaker silence to the embrace of the Anglican Church, took the hand of Governor Cornbury, the Crown's most hated representative, and lent him counsel. A man marked as traitor, consort of tyrants, enemy of the plain folk. The word evil clung to him like a burr, and once spoken, such a word has a way of sticking not only to the man, but to his blood. His son Titan carried the inheritance. The almanac remained, the stars still glimmered in its margins, and the family crest now adorned the masthead. A wyvern, scaled, winged, standing on clawed feet, glared from the page. Heraldic tradition, they claimed, a symbol of lineage. Yet to the farmers of South Jersey, the image was no crest, it was a prophecy. The thing in the Barrens already had a face, and here it was printed in black for all to see. The crest travelled from hand to hand, and each time the wyvern's wings seemed sharper, its tail more barbed, until no one saw ink anymore. They saw the devil himself, already drawn and waiting. Mockery from Philadelphia carried the curse even further. Benjamin Franklin, quick with his pen, chose Titan Leeds as his target. In his own Poor Richard's almanac, he predicted Titan's death, naming the month, the year. The man lived past the date, furious, his outrage published in every tavern. Franklin only laughed and called him a ghost, a dead man writing from beyond the grave. Readers roared, the joke spread, and Titan found himself half buried by rumour. A living man called Spectre, an editor branded Revenant. The insult worked like poison, slow, spreading, irreversible. When the greatest wit in the colonies insists you are already dead, the people begin to see you as something other than living, something unnatural. The Leeds family walked the roads with eyes following, lips whispering. Children made horns with their fingers when one passed. Women pulled shutters close. Men spat in the dust as though to keep the devil from claiming their tongues. And when Japhet Leeds wrote his will in 1736, naming 12 children, the paper became more than a legal document. It became evidence, a count that begged for a 13th, proof enough that a curse could have flesh. Beside Japhet stood his wife Deborah, a woman who would later be folded into the myth until she was no longer herself, but Mother Leeds, the witch mother who damned her own child. Every rumour locked with another like ribs around a body. The heretical father cast out as Satan's agent, the son mocked as a ghost by Franklin's quill, the wyvern crest grinning like a dragon in waiting, the will with its dozen children, leaving space for the 13th. One by one, each piece fed the hunger of the pines. Soon the name Leeds no longer belonged to men and women at all. It belonged to a beast. By the end of the 18th century, taverns told of the Leeds devil more often than they spoke of the Leeds family. In Burlington, men around the fire remembered the tract that called Daniel Satan's harbinger and nodded as if they themselves had seen him carry horns. Along the Mullica, they spat into the river and swore Titan's ghost still scribbled insults to Franklin in the dark. In Estelleville, mothers hushed children with warnings that the crest had come alive, that the wyvern stepped off the paper to stalk the swamps. A name that once meant land, surveyor, lineage, had shifted entirely. Leeds was no longer blood but curse. The devil that screamed from Mother Leeds's chimney had not sprung from nothing. The family itself had been softened for years, shaped by gossip, fired by enmity, hammered into a monster long before wings ever beat the pine branches. By the time the 13th child burst into the night, the world was already prepared to believe. The curse found soil tilled for it, watered with spite, rich with mockery. And once born, the tale grew fast, roots deep, trunk twisting, branches heavy with horror. The Leeds Point homestead stood at the edge of this transformation, both real and spectral. Travellers swore its windows glowed when no lamp was lit, that voices spoke inside even when the house lay empty. Men claimed to see a tall figure on the threshold at dusk, neither man nor beast, turning as if to welcome them before vanishing into smoke. The place became a shrine of suspicion, each nail and board pressed with meaning it could not shake. By the 19th century, no one spoke of it as home, they spoke of it as lair. By then the Barrens had settled into their own rhythm of dread. Locals no longer needed to mention Daniel or Titan or Deborah by name. They said only devil, and everyone knew which one. A monster walked the sand roads, and it bore the shape of centuries of rumour. Candle gutters, ink shines. A press jaw clacks and swallows paper, then spits it back wearing stars. Daniel Leeds bends to the page, sleeves salt-streaked, quill tapping as if keeping time with a heartbeat in the wood. He writes as if the sky were a book with half its letters fallen out and he means to restore them. Astrology in the margins. Angels speaking to men. Mysteries stitched into scripture until the cloth looks different under the candles tremble. Meeting house doors open to winter and disapproval. Elders weigh his almanac like a snake you must kill without letting it bite. Pages lift, fire answers. The room smells of scorched glue and ink. A tract arrives in reply, words hard as stones. Satan's harbinger encountered. The title alone does the work. Mouths repeat it. A name curdles. Leeds. In the silence afterward, someone says, evil, and the syllables cling like burrs to every coat that passes through the snow. Exile follows. He turns from the plain bench to the Anglican pew, from Quaker quiet to the governor's ear. Lord Cornbury, already loathed, takes him for counsellor. If anyone needed a nudge into rumour, that was it. From then on, the man is not a man, but a rumour in boots. Taverns hate him by firelight. Pious tongues practice his downfall like a hymn. The Barrens learn his name, the way a bog learns a footstep and keeps it. Years move forward with the sound of type. Titan Leeds inherits paper and sky both. He hangs the family crest at the masthead, wyvern rampant, wings spread, tail barbed. heraldry to one eye, omen to another. Farmers turn the almanac and feel watched. Children trace the creature with dirty fingers and leave the outline on tables, on doorframes, on the lids of flower chests. Soon the dragon lives two lives, ink and whisper. In kitchens, the masthead lies folded to the top corner. In mines, it perches above the pines. Across the river, a wit sharpens. Benjamin Franklin, smiling like a knife, predicts Titan's death in his own almanac. October, if you please. A jest, a salesman's trick. But jokes breed like rats. Titan fumes in print. Franklin laughs in print. A ghost, he writes, and keeps writing even after Titan's body lies still, as if the pen itself can see a spectre where a man stood. Philadelphia roars, Burlington repeats. Out in the sand roads of South Jersey, the word ghost glows like coal under ash. A family that once printed stars now carries a shroud in every conversation. Legal ink adds weight. Japhet Leeds bends over his will in 1736. Candle stuttering, quill scratching 12 names. Children counted cleanly, a dozen small anchors tied to one hard life. The parchment lies flat. Gossip does not. In the mouths along the Mullica, 12 becomes a door left ajar. If 12 are named, a 13th can step through. Proof enough, they say, and proof is a generous shapeshifter when fear asks it to dance. House by house, the story takes up residence. Mothers scold with it. Mind your chores or the devil of Leeds will hear. Men argue policy and salt their curses with the family name. Preachers soften their throats around warnings not entirely biblical. No one means the animal yet, they mean the stain. But stains travel faster than water and draw shapes as they go. Leeds Point begins to sound like a place as well as a verdict. Esterville hears it. Burlington repeats it. Even the river seems to carry the syllables like drift. Papers answer papers. Quaker pages black with rebuke. Anglican defences hot with scripture. Pamphlets like gnats rising in summer. The argument climbs the rungs. Religion into politics. Politics into gossip. Gossip into bedtime. People forget the order. Remember only the heat. Leeds sided with the crown. Leeds kissed Cornbury's hand. Leeds wrote stars. Leeds wore a crest with a dragon. How many steps from there to Leeds bred a devil? Fewer every year. That crest grows busier than it has a right to. Schoolboys carve the wyvern into desk lids with pocket knives meant for apples. Mill hands chalk it on the side of a hogshead and grin at the discomfort it brings. A woman pins an almanac leaf to the inside of a cupboard to keep mice from the flour, and thinks twice when her husband asks why a monster must guard their bread. Once a picture becomes an omen, wood and paper cannot refuse its work. By late century, people speak less of Daniel and Titan and more of a single compound thing, the Leeds devil. Not a doctrine, not yet a body, something between. A family dragged from pew and page into a shape large enough to stand in a doorway made of air. When the name crosses a threshold, dogs lift their heads. When it rides a cart into the pines, the driver sits a little stiffer. Superstition learns to pronounce a surname. The surname changes its nature. Franklin's joke, still funny in city rooms, turns sour in the woods. Ghost becomes not satire, but weather. A dead man writing becomes a household shorthand for all that will not stay buried. The populace learns the tune. Truth hums along whether it likes it or not. Men who count themselves careful repeat a new thought at tavern tables. A people makes the monster it deserves. If so, then South Jersey, raw, poor, stubborn, pious and unrepentant by turns, has made one with a local face. A devil who remembers pamphlets as well as prayers. A devil born of a woman who might have been your neighbour. A devil drawn in the corner of an almanac you keep for weather and planting and, lately, protection. Letters multiply, so do versions. In one, the woman is Deborah. In another, someone not worth naming. Somewhere else, the birth shifts counties, trades years. Exactness fails the way lantern light fails in fog. No matter. The heart of the tale beats strong. Leads plus curse equals devil. That arithmetic needs no slate, no schoolmaster. Clergy try to smother it with doctrine. Devil of Leeds, they say from pulpits, and think the name will flatten the thing it names. Instead, the phrase grows teeth, finds rhythm, learns to travel easier by mouth than by sermon. Boys chant it at one another in the lane. Girls whisper it as if exchanging knives. A printer in Philadelphia sets type for an unrelated notice and flinches without knowing why when he pulls leads out of a drawer. By the 19th century, printers beyond the pines start to feel a tug. An editor hears a scrap of talk at a ferry. A correspondent sends a paragraph that tastes of smoke and pine gum. Devil of Leeds, someone puts in italics as if to keep it from biting through the page. Columns play host to a shadow without committing to its shape. Each time the letters stand together in ink, the shadow fattens. Still, everything remains mostly paper and voice. No cannon shot in a yard, not here. No winter of tracks yet. Only the machinery of a legend building pressure. People pass the name the way they pass hot iron, hand to hand, quick and careful, and every transfer leaves a small burn. The Barrens watch, patient, a cat pretending sleep. Time bends toward a hinge. You can feel it if you lay a palm to the table where the almanac lies and wait for the throb in the wood. The crest dragon seems to turn its head. Franklin's old joke stops being clever and becomes a door. The will's 12 names line up like stones across a stream and show where feet might go to reach the far bank. A tract's title whispers harbinger until the word stops warning and starts announcing. By the end of this telling, by the end of this part of the story, no one in tavern or church needs to ask which leads you mean when you say devil. The family has become the form. The rumor has learned to walk the road ahead of the thing itself. All that remains is for paper to find flesh, for a name to discover its body, for a curse to take the last step out of the mouth that birthed it. Winter waits somewhere beyond the door. So do roads that remember more than wheels. When they carry something heavier than wagons, you will hear about it soon enough. For now the forest takes a long breath, as if about to speak for itself. Stories do not stay in one house. They bleed into the roads, ride the rivers, follow the wagons. The Devil of Leeds does not remain in the chimney smoke or the cracked floorboards. It begins to move, and with its movement the Barrens take on a new kind of silence, the hush of fields and pens and farmsteads listening for what waits beyond the tree line. One tale tells of Commodore Stephen Decatur, the great naval hero, visiting Hanover Mill Works to watch cannonballs being cast. He stands in his uniform, proud and precise, when a shadow cuts across the yard. Men look up, squinting at the winter light, and see something riding the sky on wings that do not belong to any bird. Decatur levels his cannon and fires. Iron screams into the air, smoke rolls, sparks fly. The shape staggers but does not fall. The cannonball might as well have been a pebble pitched at a storm. The beast wheels away, vanishing into the trees, leaving behind only the smell of scorched pine and the faces of men who know they saw something no officer's report will ever record. Another whisper curls from Bordentown. Joseph Bonaparte, brother to Napoleon, wanders his estate with rifle in hand, hunting on the frozen ground. He hears branches break, heavy, deliberate. A shape steps between the trees, long neck, wings hunched, eyes burning like coals banked in ash. He raises his gun, but the air grows so still his own breath sounds like thunder in his ears. Before he can fire, the creature leaps, wings snapping out like sails. And it is gone. Bonaparte lowers his rifle and stares into the void it leaves behind. A void more terrifying than a shot could ever fill. A man who once dreamed of empires now carries the memory of a beast. And that memory will cling to him as surely as exile. Years bleed onward. Farmers lose goats, sheep, chickens. Pens are found torn open. blood soaking into sand that will not hold a print. In 1840, the killings come sharp, one after another. The air itself begins to scream at night. In 1841, it happens again. Flocks scattered, livestock mauled, tracks found that led nowhere, cries so loud men think the heavens themselves have split. Each time the question rises, what stalks the barrens? And each time the answer comes back the same, the Leeds Devil. The legend stretches outward. By 1859, it has grown so large that the Atlantic Monthly prints the tales of pine folk, men and women, branded as half-wild themselves, whispering of a monster in the woods. By 1887, newspapers report it plainly. A winged creature, not bird, not beast, but the Devil of Leeds, roaming Evesham woods. A colonel recalls hearing its yell 50 years earlier, unearthly enough to silence dogs, strong enough to shake men from their beds. He swears hunters fired at it with their finest rifles, every ball passing through as though striking smoke, and still the thing flew. There isn't a family, he says, in Burlington or the adjoining counties who does not know it. It is the bugaboo of every childhood. His words are not poetry. They are memory branded deep enough to last a lifetime. Footprints begin to play tricks. Hooves pressed deep in snow, the stride too wide for any horse. Prints that start on one side of a fence and appear again on the other without sign of passage. Marks that climb roofs, skip rivers, vanish into open fields where nothing could vanish. Farmers follow them until the tracks simply stop, as though the devil chose a moment to leave the earth entirely and walk on air. By the late 19th century, the story is no longer bound to Leeds or to a curse whispered in childbirth. It is its own living thing, older than memory, stronger than fact. The Barrens host a presence, and that presence visits when it will, leaving nothing but prints, screams, and a terror that stains every telling. In Greenwich Township in 1925, a farmer shoots an animal that comes for his chickens. He drags the corpse into the open, photographs it, and shows it to 100 people. Not one can give it a name. The body is never explained. In 1937, red eyes gleam in Downingtown, Pennsylvania, another beast seen and compared at once to the devil. In 1951, boys in Gibbstown swear they saw it with their own eyes. In 1957, there is talk of a corpse matching its description. In 1960, the tracks return, deep in Mays Landing. Merchants so sure the devil lives that they offer a $10,000 reward and the promise of a private zoo. No one collects. But before all of that comes the storm of 1909. The week when stories erupt not from one mouth or two, but from hundreds. January winds drag snow across the Barrens, and in that snow come prints. Deep, cloven, erratic, stretching from Camden to Bristol, from Trenton to Delaware. Reports flood every paper. Children are kept home from school. Factories close their doors. Hunters with rifles prowl the woods, while priests raise hands in futile blessing. A trolley car is attacked in Haddon Heights, a social club in Camden. Police fire into the sky. Bullets pass through nothing. The creature rises again and again, a shadow glimpsed by hundreds. Fear spreads faster than the stories themselves. Vigilantes march. Men bar windows. Women hide knives under pillows. For a week, the entire Delaware Valley holds its breath, convinced a demon has taken wing. Even the Philadelphia Zoo posts a reward, $10,000 to whoever can catch it. Hoaxes rush in. A kangaroo dressed in claws and wings, passed off as proof, but no one laughs. Not really. The tension is too deep, the terror too raw. When the week ends, the creature fades, the tracks melt, the stories settle into print, but something lingers. Even those who never saw it, never heard it, swear they felt it. That week in January, they say, the devil of the pines walked openly among men, and the world was not ready. By then, the name has changed, no longer simply the Leeds Devil. Now it is the Jersey Devil, a title that binds it not to one family but to an entire land. The The curse has spread from blood to soil. The monster is no longer the child of a woman, nor the shadow of a crest, nor the subject of Franklin's jest. It is the child of the pines themselves. And once the pines claim a child, they do not give it back. The storm of 1909 fades, but its echoes refuse to die. The name Jersey Devil sticks fast, stamped across headlines and whispered in parlors, the syllables passed from child to child like a dare. In Camden and Burlington, in Trenton and across the river in Philadelphia, mothers lean close to their children's beds and whisper caution. Behave, or the devil will come. Stay close, or the devil will take you. For a generation, the week of terror becomes a touchstone, proof that the Barrens do not only hold shadows, but something alive. Sightings roll in, irregular but insistent. December of 1925. A farmer in Greenwich Township finds something clawing at his chickens. He fires, the blast shaking his porch, and the creature falls. By lantern light, its body looks like nothing he has ever seen. Twisted limbs, wings crooked at the joint. He poses for photographs, showing the corpse to 100 neighbors. Not one can name it, not dog, not bird, not horse. A century later, the photograph still circulates, grainy, unsettling, a frozen question with no answer. In 1937, residents of Downingtown, Pennsylvania, see glowing red eyes stalking the edge of town. The Pennsylvania Bulletin carries the story, comparing it at once to the Jersey Devil. It does not matter that Downingtown lies far from the Mullica. The devil's territory has no fence. The Barrens have lent it wings, and wings travel where they will. By 1951, the fear grips children. A group of boys in Gibbstown swear they see the monster in broad daylight. They describe it with uncanny precision, wings stretched, goat-like head, eyes round and fierce. Adults laugh, but not loudly. Memories of 1909 weigh too heavy for open ridicule. In 1957, the whispers intensify when someone claims to have found a corpse. The body is described, compared, argued over, and then it vanishes. Nothing concrete remains, but the absence itself becomes evidence. If the devil can live, then surely it can die. And if it can die, it can be reborn. In 1960, the tracks come again. Fresh hooves pressed into mud near May's Landing. No horse nearby, no explanation in sight. Night after night, strange sounds circle the settlement. Shrieks like rusted hinges dragged wide. Bellows like a forge breathing fire. Merchants grow bold, posting a reward, $10,000 for the creature's capture. They even promise to build a private zoo, as if the devil could ever be contained by bars. No one collects the prize. Some claim hunters stalked the Barrens with rifles. Others swear pranksters played tricks. But the noises continue until the air itself seems to hum with menace. The years layer stories on stories. Each decade adds its own testimony. Each town claims its own brush, with wings and claws. To skeptics, the devil becomes a parade of mistakes. Migrating sandhill cranes, their long necks and trumpeting calls unfamiliar to pine folk, wandering from their native grounds into the wrong forest. A hunter camouflaged in mud, glimpsed at night and mistaken for a nightmare. Hooves carved in snow by clever hands. To the faithful, these explanations only prove the devil's craft. A demon would hide itself among natural things, wear the skin of birds, mask its prints with clever trickery. Lack of proof does not dissolve the story. It fattens it. Hoaxes weave into the legend like brambles. In 1909, when fear still seared through the Delaware Valley, a kangaroo was dressed in fake claws and wings, exhibited as the captured devil. 2 decades later, the hoaxer confessed, but no one laughed. The hunger for proof had been so strong that even a kangaroo could wear the costume of myth. Footprints carved into snow with horse hooves fooled many, admitted later as tricks, yet the memory of those tracks clings tighter than the confession. People remember the fear, not the fraud. The Pine Barrens themselves aid the devil's survival. The land is too large, too desolate, too full of its own ghosts. Pines close ranks so tightly that no moonlight falls between them. Cedar swamps stretch black as tar. Sandy roads meander until they vanish, stranding travelers who swear they hear something pacing just beyond the tree line. Every crack of branch, every sudden silence becomes proof of the beast. And the Barrens carry their own haunted company, the ghost of Captain Kidd, who buried treasure in the soil, the Black Doctor still wandering to heal the lost, the white stag shining through trees to lead men from disaster. In such company, the Jersey Devil is not an intruder, but a crown. The forest already seethes with spirits. One more fits easily, especially one born of curse and rumour. By the late 20th century, the devil wears two faces. One belongs to the hunters, the believers who prowl at night with flashlights and tape recorders, calling themselves researchers, guardians, seekers of truth. They roam the barrens, collecting tales, pressing plaster into strange tracks, chasing a cry that might come from a crane or might come from hell itself. They call themselves devil hunters, and their presence alone keeps the story walking. The other face belongs to the carnival of culture. Jerseys stitched with its name, buttons and postcards painted with wings and horns. Bars pour cocktails in its honor. Tourists buy devil souvenirs on their way to Atlantic City. A creature of terror becomes a mascot, but even in parody, something lingers. Laughter wears thin at midnight. A keychain on a shelf is harmless, but the wind in the pines still howls, and the old curse still beats behind it. Scholars call the 1909 panic a case of mass hysteria. Naturalists point to birds, bats, the strangeness of the Barrens themselves. But these voices cannot wash away centuries of rumour. They cannot scrape clean the memory of cannon fire bouncing off a flying beast, or Bonaparte lowering his rifle in frozen awe, or mothers scrawling chalk numbers on their sills to make sure their children were still whole. The Jersey Devil has no skeleton in a museum, no specimen jar in a laboratory, yet it survives stronger than many things proven real. It survives because the Barrens survive, because the story is older than fact and feeds on fear, and fear has never been scarce. Even now, travellers stepping into the pines at dusk speak of a hush that falls too suddenly, as if the forest itself is listening. They tell of cries that peal across the swamps, neither bird nor beast, a sound that makes dogs flatten themselves to the ground and men clutch their coats tighter. Some claim to see it still, long legs, crooked back, wings stretched wide enough to blot stars. Some say it follows roads unseen, a shadow that keeps pace just out of sight. And some insist that when the wind cuts sharp through the needles, you can hear a mother's curse still hanging in the air, spoken 3 centuries ago and never recalled. The devil is no longer Leeds's child. It is New Jersey's child, a curse born of one mouth now carried by thousands. It walks in stories, in taverns, in playground whispers. It walks in the woods, in the cry that makes even the boldest hunter quicken his step. It walks because the Barrens do not forget, and neither do the people who live in their shadow. And if you doubt, if you sneer, if you mock the tale as childish, go into the pines alone. Walk until the trees knot overhead and the sand swallows your tracks. Stand still. Listen. When the silence stretches too long, you will understand. The devil does not need you to believe in it. The devil only needs you to hear. The Pine Barrens do not need monsters. They are a monster already, a stretch of wilderness too wide to tame, too poor to farm, too thick with pine and cedar to ever welcome a plough. Sand swallows the roads, bogs drink horses whole, and the air itself seems to lean heavy on the chest. Even without wings in the night, even without horns pressed against the glass, this land has always been a place to fear. Those who live here carry that fear like a second skin. Poor farmers scratching at barren soil, outlaws hiding from justice, runaway slaves carving freedom in secret, brigands waiting with muskets at roadside. The infamous pine robbers once stalked these woods, loyalists turned highwaymen, bleeding travelers until the sand itself turned black. Every whisper of violence, every desperate soul cast from the wider world, finds its echo among the trees. People call them pineys, a word spat with contempt, a label to mark them as other. In the telling, the pineys lean into the word, wearing it like armor, filling it with menace, so outsiders will think twice before stepping into their world. But menace is not enough. The Barrens hunger for stories to match their silence, so the people give them more. They tell of Captain Kidd, the pirate who slit throats from Barbados to New York, burying treasure in the shifting sands of the pines. Some claim he still walks the cedar swamps, a ghost with a shovel over his shoulder, searching for the gold he lost to the forest. Some swear he is not alone, that the devil himself follows at his side, guardian of spoils that no man will ever reclaim. Treasure maps crumble, shovels splinter, compasses spin, but the legend digs deeper with every retelling. They tell of the Black Doctor, an outcast physician barred from practicing in the world beyond the pines. Denied by race, rejected by law, he vanished into the forest and carried his medicine to the lost. Mothers say he still wanders, appearing to the wounded and the sick, his ghostly hands gentle, his eyes kind. In daylight, he is a tale of mercy. At night, his figure walking through cedar mist feels less like salvation and more like a reminder. These woods take what the world throws away, and they keep it forever. They tell of the white stag, a phantom deer with a hide pale as salt, antlers sharp as icicles. Hunters track it and never catch it, for it appears only to lead men away from danger. Carts stuck in bogs, barns aflame, men lost in swamps. They swear the stag ran before them, guiding them out, then vanished like smoke. A ghost that saves, rare among ghosts, but its very appearance is omen enough to set a heart hammering. A white beast, galloping where no deer should run. Who can see such a thing and believe their world is safe? They tell of the golden-haired girl, her dress pale as foam, her gaze forever fixed on the sea. She waits on a rise, staring outward, mourning a lover drowned long ago. Men swear her hair shines even without sun, glimmering like metal under the moon. She does not speak, does not move, does not blink, only stares, as if her grief has bound her soul to the shore. And if she can never look away, neither can those who glimpse her. They are transfixed until the tide breaks at their feet, salt biting their boots, and the vision fades. They tell of the black dog, eyes bright as coals, padding along the sand roads at night. Unlike other hounds of legend, this one is no harbinger of death. It is companion, protector. But even a harmless spectre unsettles the soul when its paws leave no prints, when its shape dissolves if you dare to follow. And they tell of the blue hole, a pond round as a coin, water clear as glass and cold, even in summer. No one knows how deep it runs. Some say it has no bottom, only a throat that leads straight into the underworld. Boys swim and never rise. Fishermen cast lines and draw up nothing, as if the water refuses to give back what it takes. The blue hole is said to be the devil's watering place, the mirror where he stares at his own reflection before taking wing again. Those who linger near it at dusk swear they see ripples with no cause, as though something below is stirring, waiting, smiling. Each of these spirits could stand alone. Any other land would be proud to hold one of them. But in the Barrens they gather, jostling like bones in a grave, stories piled atop one another until the forest itself creaks with the weight. Yet among them, one figure rules. The devil does not vanish into sorrow like the golden-haired girl, nor offer kindness like the Black Doctor, nor play tricks of treasure like Captain Kidd. It roams, it strikes, it breathes. When a hunter stumbles on the white stag, he may whisper the tale for years, but he sleeps in peace. When a boy glimpses the black dog, he may tell the neighbors, but he eats his supper without fear. Only the devil leaves men watching their shutters, pressing crucifixes into children's hands, waiting for the shriek that might split the night. Only the devil makes the barrens feel alive with hunger. By the 20th century, the Pine Barrens have become less a wilderness and more a labyrinth of tales. Newspapers scoff, scholars explain, skeptics laugh, but still the stories stack higher. Ask a piney about the devil and they will shrug, eyes down, as though to say, "We live with it. We breathe with it. What is there to explain?" The devil does not live in books. It lives in the sound of branches snapping when no wind blows, in the sudden hush that makes the nightbirds choke silent. It lives in the blue hole's ripples, in the captain's buried chest, in the stag's pale gallop. It lives in everything that makes the barrens different, wild, untamed. Outsiders visit to hunt the legend. They tramp with flashlights, cameras, recorders, demanding proof. They return with nothing but fear, the kind that grows teeth in the dark and follows them home. But proof was never the point. Proof kills stories. In the barrens, belief is enough. Belief is fuel. Belief is meat. And the devil feeds well. The Pine Barrens keep many spirits, but only one wears horns. Only one carries a mother's curse in its throat. Only one rattles windows with its cry and scatters livestock like leaves. The others haunt. The devil reigns. The Pine Barrens have always been a place of exile. Soil too thin for crops, water too sour for comfort, land too wild for settlement. Those who stayed did so because they had nowhere else. Outlaws with bounties on their heads. Families too poor to move on. Deserters fleeing their regiments. Moonshiners with stills hidden in cedar swamps. Fugitives who vanished into the pines until even their names were swallowed. The world called them dregs, criminals, degenerates. They called themselves survivors, and the story said that such people living half in shadow must surely be kin to the devil who claimed the barrens. Strangers feared them, spat the word piney as though it meant savage. Scholars came in the early 20th century with notebooks and cold eyes, measuring skulls, scribbling reports, calling them imbeciles, criminals by birth. Eugenicists used the pineys as proof of degeneracy, painting them as a people cursed in blood. Lies, bias, science, twisted to cruelty. But once written, such words have a way of feeding stories. If the people of the barrens were already branded less than human, then why not believe their devil was real? Why not believe they raised him, hid him, served him? So the landscape and the people merged into a single myth. Every crooked cedar, every crooked man, every outlaw's pistol, every scream in the dark. The barrens did not just house the devil, they bred him. Outsiders, frightened and disdainful, called it proof. The pineys, weary and defensive, told their own tales to keep intruders away. Better to let the devil's reputation patrol the borders than invite the world in. Travelers crossing the pines at night spoke of silence so heavy it felt like being buried alive. The road vanished into blackness, sand muffling footsteps until a man could not even hear himself. Then a cry, high and tearing, split the hush, a sound that was neither bird nor beast. Men swore it rattled their ribs, shook lantern flames, left them gasping as if the night itself had stolen the air from their lungs. They told these tales in taverns, and the listeners leaned closer, glancing at the windows as if afraid the sound might follow. The devil became more than a beast. It became shorthand for everything hostile in the land. A cart stuck axle deep in sand was the devil's doing. A roof ripped loose in a storm. His claws. Chickens gone missing. Bog ironworks burned to the ground. Men vanishing in the swamps. Each carried the devil's name. The barrens needed no explanation beyond him. His presence wove order into chaos. The world was cruel. But cruelty had a face, and that face was horned. Yet the barons offered mercy too, though always in eerie form. The white stag appearing in firelight to lead families from burning barns. The black doctor seen bending over wounded travellers, his ghostly bag glinting in moonlight. These figures balanced the ledger, spirits who aided even as the devil punished. But kindness did not ease the fear. If ghosts could heal, then surely they could harm. If the woods gave one miracle, what horror might it demand in payment? The blue hole grew notorious in this age, a circle of water so clean it looked unnatural. Boys dared each other to swim, plunging into icy depths that numbed them in seconds. Some never returned. Others clawed out shivering, whispering that something had brushed their legs below. No fish, no eel, nothing they could name, just a touch, curious, deliberate. On still nights, locals swore they saw ripples form in perfect rings, as though wings beat just beneath the surface. They called it the Devil's Mirror, a place where he saw his reflection before flying again. The Pine Barrens became a patchwork of dread. One hollow belonged to the devil, another to Kid's treasure, another to the doctor, another to the stag. A map of stories drawn in fear instead of ink. Outsiders came seeking to chart it, but left with only confusion. The barons do not give up their secrets to men with compasses. They give them to those who walk too far at night, who lose their way, who listen too long to the cries carried on the wind. By mid-century, the devil's image had already begun its march into popular culture, plastered on buttons, painted on postcards. Yet the locals knew that no souvenir could capture the truth. The devil of the pines was not a mascot, but a warning. He was the sound of something waiting beyond the tree line, the shiver that told you to turn back. He was the face glimpsed for a heartbeat at the window before vanishing into dark. And when modern hunters with tape recorders and plaster casts stalked the barrens, claiming to be official researchers, the people who lived there only shrugged. They had no need of proof. They had heard the cries in the night, smelled the sulfur in the air, seen tracks that began and ended in open fields. They had lived with the devil too long to mistake him for a bird. So the barons kept their ghosts, and the devil kept his throne. Outsiders laughed or studied, pinies endured their reputation, and still the wings beat overhead. Still the trees shook. Still the blue hole rippled with unseen movement. The forest was never empty. Even when the devil was not seen, he was felt. Woven into the silence, the fear, the deep knowledge that something waits in the pines that no man can master. And of all the spirits that haunt the barrens, only one still answers to a mother's curse. Only one was born in blood and rage. Only one shrieks across centuries. The Pine Barrens keep many spirits, but only one devil. Time passes. Wars come and go, cities grow, roads stretch across South Jersey, but the devil remains. The world around it changes, yet the pines keep their silence, and in that silence the legend waits. Skeptics rise to challenge it. Naturalists say the monster is only a bird, perhaps a sandhill crane, wandered astray from its proper range, with wings broad enough to blot a moon and a call shrill enough to rattle a man's bones. Hunters claim they know the mistake, a deer glimpsed through fog, a fox running fast, a trick of distance in the dark. Sociologists speak of hysteria, of whole towns whipped into terror by rumor. They explain, and their explanations sound tidy, but tidy does not quiet the woods. For every rational word, there is another scream in the night. For every theory, there is another set of prints that begin and end on bare ground. Proof does not matter. Proof has never mattered. In the barrens, the devil does not live in bones or feathers. It lives in dread, and dread needs no specimen jar. Still, men try to cage it. In 1909, during that wild week when fear drowned the Delaware Valley, hoaxers bought a kangaroo, glued on claws, fastened wings, and displayed it as the devil itself. Crowds came to see, their eyes wide, some gasping, some laughing nervously. Later, the hoaxers confessed. Yet the confession changed nothing. People still remembered the eyes of the creature behind the bars, and memory is stronger than truth. Tracks faked with horse hooves, screams faked with whistles, these stunts multiplied. Norman Jeffries, master of deception, planted stories of sightings to draw crowds to his museum. He staged a devil in a cage, charged coin for a look, and watched his audience shudder. Decades later, he admitted the trick. Yet the legend did not falter. Instead, it fattened, feeding on the very fraud meant to expose it. Each hoax proved the hunger. Each false devil proved that the real one was still out there, uncatchable. As decades rolled on, the devil's cry still pierced the night, and the barrens remained too wide, too desolate to disprove. Believers gathered, calling themselves devil hunters, walking the sand trails with recorders in hand, whispering into the trees as if to coax the creature close. They knelt by strange tracks, poured plaster to take molds, pressed their ears to the silence for a scream. They returned to taverns with tales of shadows glimpsed, trees shaking when no wind blew, an odour of sulphur rising from the swamp. They did not find proof. They did not need to. Their hunts kept the devil alive, their stories adding more branches to the tree already gnarled with centuries. Meanwhile, the wider world began to laugh, not in dismissal, but in fascination. The Jersey Devil stepped from folklore into commerce. Its face appeared on buttons, shirts, postcards. Atlantic City barkers sold it as curiosity, a local mascot in horned silhouette. Bars poured devil-branded drinks. Souvenir stands peddled its wings on glassware and ashtrays. The legend became light enough to hold in the hand, cheap enough to buy for $1. Tourists carried it away, and in doing so, they spread it wider. Yet even laughter hides unease. A joke told in daylight becomes a shiver at midnight. A postcard on the mantel feels harmless until a branch snaps outside the window. A keychain on the dresser is just a trinket until the wind rises and carries a cry across the yard. No matter how often the devil is stamped onto a t-shirt, the barrens never lose their weight. They never lose their hush. And the hush still belongs to something winged. The 20th century gave the devil new names, new meanings. Scholars called it folklore. Newspapers called it hysteria. Skeptics called it a mistake of perception. Believers called it proof of evil walking the earth. To Pineys, it was simpler. It was theirs. Born of their land, their people, their curse. The devil was not something to prove or disprove. It was the thing that kept outsiders afraid to wander too deep. A guardian in its way, cruel and violent, but theirs. And so the devil endured, shifting with each generation. To some it was a monster, to others a joke, to the Pineys, a truth as old as the trees. Each role added another mask, another layer, but beneath every disguise the same cry lingered, a mother's curse, still echoing. Even as cities rose and highways split the forest, even as planes screamed overhead and towers reached skyward, the devil needed no modern face. It only needed the silence of the pines, the kind of silence that swallows proof whole. Outsiders brought their cameras and their skepticism. They left with the story heavier in their mouths. The devil could not be caught, could not be caged, could not be disproved. It did not live in evidence. It lived in the night, in the land, in the heart that quickens when a branch snaps in the dark. And so it walks still. A hoax may fade, a skeptic may laugh, a souvenir may gather dust, but the barrens keep their secret. And when the wind slides through the pines just so, carrying a cry too long, too sharp, too human to be a bird, those who hear it know the devil endures. The Pine Barrens never surrendered their devil, but the world beyond learned to shape it for its own use. In bars, he became a cocktail, dark rum and cinnamon bite, served flaming. On ice rinks, he became a mascot, the snarling emblem of a hockey team. In college towns, his wings spread across t-shirts, mugs, and banners. A demon once feared in every farmhouse now strutted across merchandise. Some said this was victory, a sign the monster had been tamed, stripped of its curse, and turned to profit. Yet even in this new skin, the devil did not vanish. It grinned from posters and laughed along, knowing masks are only another way to endure. But the land does not forget. The Barrens themselves resist parody. Step into them at dusk, past the last houses, and the jokes drain away. Sand muffles footsteps. Pines crowd so thick the sky disappears. Somewhere in the dark, an owl calls, then goes silent, and the silence feels deliberate. Those who walk far enough say they feel watched. Some swear they hear wings, not overhead but circling low, just beyond a reach of lantern light. You cannot buy that feeling at a souvenir shop. You can only live it, trembling in the dark. Modern hunters still chase the shadow. They call themselves devil hunters, armed with recorders, cameras, plaster for casting tracks. They drive deep into the Barrens, shut off their headlights, and let the dark press close. Hours pass, cold settling into their bones, until at last they hear it. The scream. Too high, too long, too full of rage to be bird or beast. They shine flashlights into trees and swear they see eyes reflected back, red and round, then gone. They return with shaky voices, trembling hands, no proof at all except the certainty that something is there. Their tapes capture nothing but wind, but their faces tell the story. Proof was never needed. The experience is enough. Others dismiss it all. Scientists remind us there are no bones, no feathers, no carcass rotting in the pines. Naturalists point to cranes, foxes, deer, the ordinary dressed up by fear. Historians point to Daniel Leeds and Benjamin Franklin, to politics and pamphlets, to colonial slander turned into folktale. They speak in lectures and print in journals, and the explanations are neat, rational, academic. Yet outside their classrooms, the pines stretch on, untouched. And in those miles of shadow, explanations collapse. For the people who live along the Barrens, explanations are irrelevant. They remember livestock slain, tracks in snow, nights when dogs howled without cause. They remember tales told by parents and grandparents, stories passed with the same gravity as family history. For them, the devil is not a puzzle to be solved. It is a fact of life, like the sand, the cedar water, the endless whisper of pine needles in the wind. Outsiders may laugh. Locals lower their voices when the subject comes. That difference is proof enough. And what of the curse? 3 centuries have passed since a woman cried out in childbirth, damning her 13th child. That cry still echoes. Some say you can hear it in the shriek across the swamps, the unholy cry that splits the silence. Some say you can feel it in the sudden stillness of the woods, as though every tree is holding its breath, waiting for the devil to pass overhead. The curse has not faded. It has only grown, carried by every retelling, every hoax, every newspaper headline, every laugh, turned to shiver in the night. Today the devil lives 2 lives. One belongs to the bright world. Merchandise, mascots, tourist slogans, cheap thrills sold to curious visitors. The other belongs to the dark. A shadow still circling the pines. A cry still rattling windows. A presence still walking roads where no prints remain. Both lives feed each other. The joke ensures the legend survives. The legend ensures the joke is never truly safe. The Pine Barrens remain the devil's kingdom. Outsiders can pave highways, build towns, raise towers, but the forest endures, sprawling and untamed. In those woods, the devil still waits. Some say it sleeps in the blue hole, surfacing only when the moon hangs low. Some claim it roosts in ruined barns, wings folded tight until midnight. Others whisper it never rests at all, always circling, always watching, always waiting for another voice to curse another child. The story ends where it began, in darkness, in fear, in the hush of trees that seem to lean closer as you walk. Imagine standing there now, alone, the sand cold underfoot, the branches whispering above. A wind rises. The silence grows heavy, pressing your chest, making your breath shallow. Then it comes, the cry, long, piercing, neither human nor animal, filled with pain and fury and triumph all at once. It rises, cuts the air, echoes through the barrens, then fades, leaving the night emptier than before. You look up. The sky is black. For a moment, you swear you see it. Wings stretched wide, a neck too long, hooves flashing as they kick against nothing, eyes burning red in the void. Then it is gone. You are left alone with your fear, and the pines whisper around you like teeth closing. 3 centuries have passed since a woman damned her child. 3 centuries, and still the barrens answer. The devil endures. The Jersey Devil is more than a monster of New Jersey. It has become a reflection, a mirror in which America glimpses its own shadows. Other nations boast their vampires, their werewolves, their ghosts chained to castles. The New World needed something different, something born not of ancient Europe, but of this land's own soil, its own fears, its own wilderness. Out of the Pine Barrens it rose, a creature stitched from curse and rumor, shaped by hunger, sharpened by isolation. The devil is America's contribution to the gallery of night. Consider what it embodies: the 13th child, born to a weary mother who had nothing left to give, a family marked as traitors, as heretics, as ghosts, a land too barren for farming, too tangled for safety, a wilderness sprawling beyond the reach of city and church alike. The devil was born at the intersection of exhaustion, exile, and fear of the untamed. In its wings and claws you see not only superstition, but the echo of every anxiety gnawing at the edges of colonial life. The wilderness has always frightened settlers. Forests stretching beyond sight, filled with the unknown. Animals unrecognized, peoples misunderstood, dangers uncharted. For the colonists of South Jersey, the pines were a wound in the land. Poor soil, sour water, endless miles of trees, whispering in voices they could not read. Out of that wound came a monster. In calling it devil, they named their fear and gave it form. The thing in the trees was no longer a vague unease. It had horns, hooves, wings. It screamed at night. It made itself known. And America loves monsters it can name. A named thing can be told in taverns, painted on pages, passed to children. The Leeds Devil became the Jersey Devil, and the Jersey Devil became a national spectre, proof that even the New World had its demons. It was not Dracula's aristocratic hunger, nor Europe's chained werewolves, nor the banshees of old country hills. It was something raw, untamed, winged straight from the barrens themselves. An American monster for an American land. The legend carried more than fear. It carried suspicion too. In branding the Leeds family as monstrous, the community cast their quarrels into myth. Religious strife, political mockery, Franklin's cruel joke, all of it twisted into the birth of a beast. The devil is America's reminder that our monsters are often made of our grudges, our politics, our gossip turned poisonous. A neighbor becomes a witch, a rival becomes a ghost, a family becomes the seedbed for a curse. As decades rolled on, the devil adapted to new fears. In the 19th century, when livestock died and farmers trembled at tracks in the snow, it spoke to the terror of losing one's livelihood in a land that gave little and took much. In 1909, when hundreds swore they saw it, the devil carried the panic of an industrializing society. where newspapers spread rumor like wildfire, proof that hysteria could sweep faster than any wings. In the 20th century, as science tried to cage every mystery, the devil endured as the thing science could not explain away. For each era, a different mask. For each mask, the same red eyes gleaming. Even today, the devil reflects the anxieties of its time. For some, it is a reminder of the fragility of truth in a world of rumor and hoax. For others, it is a symbol of resistance, a piney icon snarling against the contempt of outsiders. For many, it is simply a thrill, a campfire tale to quicken the heart. Yet beneath all these roles lies something deeper, a creature born of curse and wilderness, refusing to die because America still needs its monsters. Think of the way people return to the Barrens decade after decade with cameras, recorders, notebooks. They do not come only to find the devil. They come to touch that raw edge of the unknown, to feel again the terror their ancestors felt in a forest too dark to master. The devil is not proof. It is experience. To walk under the pines at night and hear the sudden silence, to see shadows shift in patterns too deliberate, to feel a presence that makes your skin tighten. That is the devil. Whether it exists or not in flesh and bone does not matter. It exists in the human need to believe the woods still belong to something greater, darker, untamable. The story becomes incantatory, a refrain whispered across centuries, a mother's curse, a child transformed, wings beating into the night. Each generation repeats it, adding its own inflections, its own fears. Repetition makes it stronger, not weaker. Like prayer, like spell, like chant, the words themselves keep the monster alive. The devil endures because we keep telling it, and the Barrens reward our faith. No other land seems so suited to host such a creature. Sand that swallows tracks, trees that blot the sun, water black as tar, clearings that shift like mirages. A place where compasses spin, where silence is never truly empty, where a scream could be natural or supernatural, and no one could tell the difference. The land is the devil's cathedral, the forest his congregation. He does not need worshippers, he has the pines. Perhaps that is why, even as highways cut through and suburbs creep closer, the heart of the Barrens resists. It keeps its dark, its silence, its crooked trees. It keeps its devil. And in that keeping, it keeps America tethered to its own shadow. We live in cities, in light, in noise, but we cannot forget that beyond the edge of the map, there are still woods where the devil walks. 3 centuries have passed. Empires have risen and fallen. Technology has reshaped the world. Yet, in South Jersey, the pines still whisper, and when they whisper long enough, someone always hears the cry. Someone always sees the shadow. Someone always tells the tale again. And the devil smiles, because a story told is a story reborn. The Jersey Devil is not simply a creature, it is a mirror. In its wings we see our fears of wilderness. In its curse we see our cruelties. In its survival we see our hunger for mystery. It is America's demon, as essential to the land as the soil, the river, the endless whisper of pines. And as long as there is wilderness left, as long as there are shadows deep enough to hide, the devil will remain, waiting, watching, enduring. The Jersey Devil has worn many faces, yet none of them has erased the others. In the beginning, it was a cursed child, crawling from a mother's bed with wings torn raw from its back. Later, it became the ghost of a family, Daniel Leeds' exile. Titan mocked as a revenant, Deborah branded witch. By the 19th century, it was a marauder of farms, a shriek in the night, a pair of hoofprints stamped deep in snow. The 20th century dressed it up as hoax and mascot. Each mask clung for a while, then slipped. What remained was not the disguise, but the creature beneath, shifting, but never gone. That is the secret of its survival. Not endurance, but transformation. A story that refuses to stay in one shape is a story no cage can hold. When the age of superstition passed, the devil became rumor. When rumor grew old, it became hysteria. When hysteria cooled, it became folklore. And now, in an age of marketing and mass media, it prowls in the form of a logo, a chant in stadiums, a face on t-shirts. Always something new, yet always carrying the curse whispered in that long-ago room at Leeds Point. For the Pineys, transformation is no surprise. They have lived generations in the margins, branded as criminals, degenerates, outcasts. Each decade writes a new slander across their backs, but they remain shaped by survival, bound to the land. Their devil behaves the same way, slipping through every net outsiders throw, refusing to be pinned down. When strangers laugh, the Pineys simply smile, knowing that laughter thins at dusk when the woods close in. The Pine Barrens themselves conspire in the devil's transformations. Sand erases tracks, wind swallows sound, trees twist in ways that trick the eyes. Every path bends, every swamp mirrors the sky until even the familiar becomes strange. It is a land that breeds ambiguity, and ambiguity is the devil's favorite cloak. Here a shadow might be a crane, or it might be something more. Here a scream might be a fox's cry, or it might be the voice of a mother's curse still echoing 3 centuries on. The Barrens never reveal which, they only whisper and wait. What fascinates is how easily the devil crosses borders of belief. For the faithful, it is flesh and blood, wings and hooves, a predator prowling the pines. For the skeptic, it is metaphor, a monster born of politics and gossip, living proof of how stories outlast truth. For the curious, it is a thrill, a jolt of fear in the retelling. And for children, it is a bedtime terror, the creature that peers in through shutters if they disobey. A single story able to serve every appetite. Few legends achieve such flexibility. Fewer still keep it for centuries. Listen closely to the way people tell it. The details change, the year, the mother's name, the description of the beast. Yet the rhythm stays the same. Always the curse, always the birth, always the flight into the pines, then the encounters, the cannon that failed to strike, the livestock slaughtered, the footprints that vanish. Each telling becomes a litany, a chant that does not require accuracy, only cadence. To speak the story is to participate in its ritual, to breathe life into it once more. In this sense, the Jersey Devil is less a creature than a rite. The land provides the stage, the people provide the words, and together they summon the spectre again and again. To doubt it is irrelevant. The act of telling is the proof. And as long as someone speaks, the thing in the pines is never silent. Perhaps that is why the devil has become more American than any imported phantom. Vampires can be killed by daylight. Werewolves fall with silver. Ghosts fade with exorcism. But the Jersey Devil obeys no single rule, no fragile law. It bends itself to every era, reshapes itself to fit every fear. It survives not in spite of disbelief, but because of it. The harder people try to explain it away, the stronger it grows in the spaces left behind. Ask the people who live near the Barrens today. They may shrug, they may laugh, they may sell you a postcard. But if you press them hard enough, if you catch them at night with the wind rising in the trees, their smiles falter. Some admit they have heard it, the cry that is too sharp, too long, too human to be a bird. Others confess they have seen shadows move against the stars. They lower their voices when they say it, as though the very name might carry, as though the pines themselves are listening. Step into the Barrens alone and you understand why. The silence is never true silence. It hums, waits, watches. A branch snaps, a shadow bends. The hair lifts on your neck before your mind can give reason. You know, without knowing why, that something is near. Something that has been near for centuries. something that has taken every curse, every rumor, every joke, every hoax, every laugh, every shiver, and woven them into wings that beat above you even now. If America ever needed proof that stories are stronger than flesh, the pines provided. Bones rot, houses fall, names fade from wills and stones, but the devil remains, not as endurance, but as change, always new, always familiar, always waiting. It is not only New Jersey's child, nor only the Barrens' sentinel. It has become a symbol of how myth itself survives, restless, shifting, never still. And somewhere in the pines tonight, a cry rises, long and ragged, cutting through cedar and pitch pine alike. It does not matter what made it. What matters is that you hear it, and in hearing it, you remember the story. The ritual completes itself. The devil has changed again, taking your fear as its newest shape. The Jersey Devil has worn many faces, yet none of them has erased the others. In the beginning, it was a cursed child, crawling from a mother's bed with wings torn raw from its back. Later, it became the ghost of a family. Daniel Leeds' exile, Titan mocked as a revenant, Deborah branded witch. By the 19th century, it was a marauder of farms, a shriek in the night, a pair of hoofprints stamped deep in snow. The 20th century dressed it up as hoax and mascot. Each mask clung for a while, then slipped. What remained was not the disguise, but the creature beneath, shifting but never gone. That is the secret of its survival. Not endurance, but transformation. A story that refuses to stay in one shape is a story no cage can hold. When the age of superstition passed, the devil became rumor. When rumor grew old, it became hysteria. When hysteria cooled, it became folklore. And now, in an age of marketing and mass media, it prowls in the form of a logo, a chant in stadiums, a face on t-shirts. Always something new, yet always carrying the curse whispered in that long-ago room at Leeds Point. For the Pineys, transformation is no surprise. They have lived generations in the margins, branded as criminals, degenerates, outcasts. Each decade writes a new slander across their backs, but they remain, shaped by survival, bound to the land. Their devil behaves the same way, slipping through every net outsiders throw, refusing to be pinned down. When strangers laugh, the Pineys simply smile, knowing that laughter thins at dusk when the woods close in. The Pine Barrens themselves conspire in the devil's transformations. Sand erases tracks, wind swallows sound, trees twist in ways that trick the eyes. Every path bends, every swamp mirrors the sky until even the familiar becomes strange. It is a land that breeds ambiguity, and ambiguity is the devil's favorite cloak. Here a shadow might be a crane, or it might be something more. Here a scream might be a fox's cry, or it might be the voice of a mother's curse still echoing 3 centuries on. The Barrens never reveal which. They only whisper and wait. What fascinates is how easily the devil crosses borders of belief. For the faithful, it is flesh and blood, wings and hooves, a predator prowling the pines. For the skeptic, it is metaphor, a monster born of politics and gossip, living proof of how stories outlast truth. For the curious, it is a thrill, a jolt of fear in the retelling. And for children, it is a bedtime terror, the creature that peers in through shutters if they disobey. A single story, able to serve every appetite. Few legends achieve such flexibility. Fewer still keep it for centuries. Listen closely to the way people tell it. The details change, the year, the mother's name, the description of the beast, yet the rhythm stays the same. Always the curse, always the birth, always the flight into the pines. Then the encounters, the cannon that failed to strike, the livestock slaughtered, the footprints that vanish. Each telling becomes a litany, a chant that does not require accuracy, only cadence. To speak the story is to participate in its ritual, to breathe life into it once more. In this sense, the Jersey Devil is less a creature than a rite. The land provides the stage, the people provide the words, and together they summon the spectre again and again. To doubt it is irrelevant. The act of telling is the proof. And as long as someone speaks, the thing in the pines is never silent. Perhaps that is why the devil has become more American than any imported phantom. Vampires can be killed by daylight, werewolves fall with silver, ghosts fade with exorcism. But the Jersey Devil obeys no single rule, no fragile law. It bends itself to every era, reshapes itself to fit every fear. It survives not in spite of disbelief, but because of it. The harder people try to explain it away, the stronger it grows in the spaces left behind. Ask the people who live near the Barrens today. They may shrug, they may laugh, they may sell you a postcard. But if you press them hard enough, if you catch them at night with the wind rising in the trees, their smiles falter. Some admit they have heard it. The cry that is too sharp, too long, too human to be a bird. Others confess they have seen shadows move against the stars. They lower their voices when they say it, as though the very name might carry, as though the pines themselves are listening. Step into the Barrens alone and you understand why. The silence is never true silence. It hums, waits, watches. A branch snaps. A shadow bends. The hair lifts on your neck before your mind can give reason. You know, without knowing why, that something is near. Something that has been near for centuries. Something that has taken every curse, every rumor, every joke, every hoax, every laugh, every shiver, and woven them into wings that beat above you even now. If America ever needed proof that stories are stronger than flesh, the pines provide it. Bones rot, houses fall, names fade from wills and stones, but the devil remains, not as endurance, but as change. Always new, always familiar, always waiting. It is not only New Jersey's child, nor only the Barrens' sentinel. It has become a symbol of how myth itself survives, restless, shifting, never still. And somewhere in the pines tonight, a cry rises, long and ragged, cutting through cedar and pitch pine alike. It does not matter what made it. What matters is that you hear it, and in hearing it, you remember the story. The ritual completes itself. The devil has changed again, taking your fear as its newest shape. Every land births its shadows. Europe had vampires and werewolves, banshees and black dogs. The New World hungered for its own, and the Barrens answered. Out of cedar swamp and sand road rose a creature stitched from curse and rumor, hooves that left no tracks, wings that belonged to no bird, a scream that shook windows. America claimed it as its demon, wild, contradictory, untamed. The devil began as a cursed child, then became a family's disgrace, then a monster in the trees. With each century, it shed one skin for another. Farmers feared it as a killer of flocks. Newspapers made it hysteria in 1909. Skeptics turned it into folklore. Tourists bought it on mugs and postcards. Fans cheered it on hockey jerseys. Yet the story never died. Instead, it shifted, adapting to each age, carrying a curse that could not be silenced. Why does it persist? Because it fits America's oldest fears. Fear of wilderness too vast to master. Fear of exile, of being cast out like the Pineys who lived in the margins. Fear of hysteria that sweeps through towns faster than fire. And fascination too, the thrill of a monster we can name, the pleasure of whispering its story to children at night. The Jersey Devil is not just a bogeyman. It is identity, heritage, ritual. A reminder that no matter how modern we become, we still need something in the dark to frighten us. The Barrens make it possible. Sand that swallows tracks, trees that smother light, water black as tar. Step into them at dusk and you understand why the devil lives. Silence grows heavy, pressing on your chest. A twig snaps, a branch shifts, and suddenly every explanation, crane, fox, hysteria, feels too thin. The land conspires with the legend, and together they breathe life into it. To tell the story is to summon it. A mother curses her child. A cry erupts. A beast bursts into the pines. Cannon fire cannot kill it. Tracks vanish into air. Entire towns panic at its shriek. Repeat the litany, and the creature stirs again. Folklore is ritual, and ritual keeps the monster hungry. Picture it now. Winter in the barrens, snow laid smooth as paper. Prints cross the field, hooves, but too far apart for any horse. They climb a fence, march across a roof, vanish into open sky. No answer waits, only the hush of trees bending closer. Or summer at the blue hole, its water round and impossibly still. You kneel to touch the surface and rings ripple outward, though nothing broke it. Some say those rings are wing beats from below, the devil studying its reflection before rising again. This is why the Jersey Devil is more than New Jersey's curse. It is America's winged demon, proof that even here, land of reason, land of progress, there are places that belong to mystery. Each generation reshapes it, but none can erase it. To laugh at it is to spread it. To deny it is to feed it. To tell it is to keep it alive. And when the pines grow too quiet, when the night turns thick and the air tastes of ash, the story ends as it always does, with the sound. A cry long and ragged, neither human nor animal, tearing through cedar and pine alike. A sound that reminds you the curse still walks, and will walk as long as there are shadows left to hold it.